Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 25th day of May, 2023. Well, next week is Memorial Day weekend, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I guess I'll still do Monday's tarot reading and rune reading. Why not? I usually do. It's just that I've got some more planting to do, but I think it won't matter. I can get it done early in the morning like I'm doing now. So let's just go ahead and I'll just plan to be here. And if you can catch it, great. If not, then maybe watch it on Tuesday or something. But anyway, we're we spent yesterday putting in our potatoes and our corn. So that's done at least, and we're starting to harden off plants that are going to go out in the garden. And I discovered one garden space that we've not dealt with yet, cleaning out wise. I have a motherwort plant in there, I guess I missed some of the seeding on it because it's everywhere. And some of the plants are as tall as the mother plant, and I don't even know how that happened. I think because of all the rain we've had, which isn't normal, that could be why. But good Lord, it's a mess in there. I was looking at it yesterday. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, I'm going to be doing that today. I'll probably be tackling that today. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to leave my tea right next to everything here today, so I don't have to, because my shoulder's kind of hurting. Anyway, usually I leave it over on the little table there, and but I don't know. I don't know if I'm well enough to do that. Anyway, I haven't used I raked up raised beds is what I did, and I got a little carried away. So anyway, we'll see how today goes. Hopefully I don't have to do too much of that. But here we have Hagalaz for today's rune to get us started from the Elder Futhark. Hagalaz is one of the Norn runes. It's it's essentially thought of as the witch rune. It's the rune of the past. The three Norns were goddesses, or they could have been considered Disir or something like that. But they were the ones that as Odin hung upside down from the world tree, they gave him the runes supposedly for enlightenment. It's also used, but I use it as a divination tool, and of course, the Druids did too. But basically, it's also a language. But I sort of look at it as a language of spirit, and in this reading, I use it as the above side of things for the significators for the reading. And what Hagalaz actually does is it's essentially the same thing as witchcraft. It's transformation within a fixed framework. So it's not destroying and leveling everything, like you would if you were, going to build something and you had to get rid of everything that was there. You level it all and start over again. It's not, and that's transformation, right? You're transforming that piece of property into something else. Well, this is a little bit different. You're not, it'd be like tweaking your perceptions on something, whereas your values and your principles remain the same. But sometimes we get off track with our perceptions about things, and they're not in sync with what our values are. And so you could use Hagalaz in a spell, or you could use it just to alert you to the fact that there's something going on that maybe needs a little bit of an adjustment. So let's just think about it at that but from a higher perspective, okay? If ego's getting the better of you, now we need to have soul come in and higher awareness come in, or higher self come in and say, let's look at that a little bit differently here. Maybe you're not seeing the bigger picture, and we're all there from time to time, aren't we? So let's go ahead though and look at the below side of things. I'm going to throw down the 4 elemental geomancy runes. I'm going to put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, except I don't have to because they're all 2 dots, which means we have populace. Let's find populace. Populace and its complement via. We had via last week, I'm pretty sure. No, we had it last Thursday. We had via. Yeah. Anyway, via means a path, or it can also mean stuck in a perception. But populace is complement. is about the people, it's the crowd, but it can also mean the follower. Whereas Vaya is just a single dot, 4 dots all the way down. This is dual dots, 2 dots all the way down, in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. You're looking at a passive influence of the elemental influences. You're looking, whereas with Vaya, it would be an active influence. So here, it's more like instead of taking your own path, you're kind of following along with something else. And that may have been what needs to be transformed a little bit, where you need to maybe think a little more for yourself instead of following the crowd. And so that would be the transformation with Hagalas. You're not losing your values. You're just bringing your behavior, your perceptions, your choices more in sync with them, maybe. I mean, unless you've got, some odd values or something where you value really negative things, I suppose. But I suppose, that would be a different story. But for the sake of argument, just say that your values are lofty and you got off track, and now you kind of need to bring them back in line with what you truly believe, and not get so caught up in other people's stuff. It might seem exciting, but it's probably not something that's going to get you where you need to go. So. Anyway, but let's before we commit to that, though, let's go ahead and take a look at the cards and see if we can go ahead and go with that as a significator, or if maybe we need to tweak it a little bit and come up with a better beginning. But I suspect that maybe you've been too passive, maybe you haven't asserted yourself, and maybe it's for whatever reason, fear or something, or just a lack of comfort. He's like, oh, I don't think I want to say what I think, but if it's something you need to do, to protect yourself, or to, assert your own, beliefs and your own, what you need, then you have to be able to do that. So it could be something even as simple as that, not being so passive about things, and doing what you have to do to make that happen. Sometimes, you can do it in a kind of a metaphysical way with journeying, meditation and all of that. But sometimes, you have to take a self-assertion class or something, or read a book on how to assert yourself. But let me go ahead and cut the deck. Well, let me shuffle just a little bit more here. I've shuffled before, and because of the raised bed making yesterday, my left wrist is bothering me, so shuffling is a little bit painful this morning, so forgive me about that if it takes me a little bit longer. But I did some shuffling prior to starting, like I always do. I'm going to cut the cards, cut the deck, and away we go. So we start with the King of Swords, and then we go to the Two of Swords, and then the Nine of Pentacles. I don't know if I'm going to leave them in the order they're in, but let's start out with them. We have the 9 and the 2, which is an 11 numerology. The king doesn't have one. The court doesn't have a numerology attached to it. So if it did, it would be king. The king would be card 14. So 5 or change or what have you would be its numerology. But right now we have an 11, and we're not going to reduce that to 2, because 11 is a master number, and it's a master number meaning enlightenment and awakening and spirituality. And so I think that obviously there's something here, maybe to what we initially decided that Hagalas and Populace were all about. It could be that you need to kind of wake up to something that maybe you've been avoiding, or you've been really passive about, and you need to face it and deal with it. So it could be something like that. But the King of Swords, you know what? I'm going to put the 2 first. I'll put the king in the middle because I'm going to read it that way. Let's start with the 2. Here we have a woman who's sitting on a stone bench, her back against the water. The water is not smooth, and so water represents emotions. Even though this is the suit of swords, which is the air element, you're always going to see other elements displayed in the cards. You can't help but see that. And here she's basically got a blindfold on. She's turned her back to her emotions. You see the dual line of demarcation here. Kind of that was then, this is now. That was before, this is now. So that type of separation. in terms of what's happening. But here she's got her arms crossed. She's got a sword in each hand. 2 is about balance. It's about reason. It's also about reciprocity and love and healing and all of that. But here she needs to make a decision. Swords reflects the air element, and so that's going to be the mental faculties. That's going to be the intellect, reason, fairness, justice, balance. What else? Reciprocity, or well, no. Yeah, I mean, communication, so reciprocity that way. But it's about having to make a decision also. And doing it in a way that's dispassionate. When you see the blindfold, she doesn't want to see what's going on. She doesn't want to have her emotions, in this case, influence the decision that she has to make. You let that happen, and maybe you stay in the populous area where you're passive about things and you're not really asserting yourself in the way that you need to assert yourself. And you're not speaking up on your behalf. You give yourself away, that kind of thing. And so here she needs to make a decision in a dispassionate manner. And she needs to do it in a balanced fashion. You can see the swords are in equal distance from one another. So there's a level of balance there. And you see the moon above that's in its maiden phase. When you see a moon like that, you're looking at something new that has to take place. And so if you're somebody who is passive in your expression with other people, maybe you always have been that way, but now it's sort of catching up with you, and maybe it's not working anymore. And you need to figure out something else, to figure out a way to say what you need to say, so that you're comfortable. But even if you're not comfortable, even if you're stepping outside your comfort zone to do it, and it doesn't feel all that great while you're doing it, because there's a little fear involved, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Even if you make a mistake doing it, it's okay. You can try again and get it right. As many times until you're comfortable with the kinds of things you're saying to express how you feel. Maybe you come up with just a certain number of phrases that you use, that you've decided on, and it helps get you started into that interaction that you need to have. But in any event, this decision that needs to be made is probably a little bit new and stepping outside your comfort zone. And realistically, if you're letting go of passive behavior, that's just a natural part of that. So it's just something you have to do. With the King of Swords now, here you have a king that, again, with swords, is again the air element. You have a guy that's reasoned, logical. He demands honesty. That's another part of swords. It has to do with honesty versus deception. He's logical. He's clever. He's typically the boss. And this could indicate somebody that you either need to talk to, maybe you need some advice from an older person or somebody with more experience, who can tell you maybe how they've handled things and the pitfalls of this and that. Maybe it has, if this is a legal issue, which it could be, then maybe you need to go see an attorney. Or you could maybe go see a therapist if it's something else that isn't a legal issue, or just somebody that you know in your life who is just a little more experienced, that can help you make the decision you need to make. Now, that's one aspect of the king. If it's not an individual that you need to go talk to, then we're looking at the qualities of that king. Again, logical, clever, assertive, take no prisoners, demand respect, demand honesty from somebody, and also from yourself. But being able to analyze the bigger picture of the whole situation, to know which direction you need to go in the first place. And so again, the court is an interesting section or grouping of the tarot. Because it doesn't have any numerology attached to it. It's just this nebulous thing where you're either talking about the individual on the card who may come into your life, who may offer advice in this case, or you may seek advice from, or you need to become a little more like the king and become more logical and clever and demand the respect that you deserve. And assert yourself. If people aren't listening, then you can get walked over, and you don't need that. So being able to assert yourself and not respond passively is and saying nothing at all. Actually, who knows? Maybe they've never seen this in you, and they'll just suddenly stop and go, oh, and suddenly give you the attention that maybe they didn't even. Heck, maybe they didn't even realize they were passing you by because you just never said anything, So maybe they just thought silence means you agree with them or something. So it's not always something nefarious that's going on. Although if you've tried in the past and nobody listens, well, then maybe they don't want to, right? And maybe you need a new set of people around you. But at the same time, tweaking some of that within so that you can at least stand up and say, well, no, this is what I think. Whether anybody ultimately, listens or not, it's important that you can do that. Because then when you do, you have a better outcome. You have a little more peace of mind. This is a lovely card. We have the Queen in the garden. I interpret her as the queen, or a woman of means anyway, with the robe and all the abundance around her. She's got one hand on a coin. She's basically displaying her wealth here. She's got her falcon on her gloved hand, on her left hand. She's looking at she's kind of looking at the falcon, sort of. Not exactly. She's more just dreamy like. She's not actually looking. She's looking in the direction, but sort of downward. So she's just sort of in this dream state of relaxation and peace and security and all of that. Sometimes when you make a decision about something, it can affect your material security later on. Speaking up about something, asking a boss for a raise, not an easy thing to do, is it? You're scared. You're afraid that, your worth is on the line. And what if they say no, and it's, oh my gosh, then can you even stay there? Excuse me. Can you even stay there at the place? Because it's like, oh, I've humiliated myself asking for something clearly they don't think I'm worthy of, So you get into that whole crazy emotional mindset of it all. And heck, maybe it ends up being the case, but and you have to move on at that point because you're just not comfortable anymore. But at the end of the day, I think if you can master the idea that, you need to make a decision in a way that's rational and not letting emotions get in the way when there's something that needs to be transformed about you, the emotions are what can hold you back. Fear can hold you back. It can be a powerful control agent within, basically. If you're afraid to express yourself, you're afraid of somebody's reaction. Well, at some point, you're going to have to figure out what's going on. You're going to with yourself, and you're going to have to make the decision to drink some tea, basically. Allergies. The pollen is crazy outside. It's my husband has been sneezing. I had to send him out of the house. Otherwise you'd hear him. He's a mess right now. He's got allergies galore. He's not doing well. So I'm going to have to give him some nettle in his tea this morning when I get done here. But the idea here, back to the reading, the idea here is that the decisions that you make have to be dispassionate. You can't sometimes sometimes emotion is there and you realize that you can't go any further, and it's based on those emotions that you have to make a decision. So sometimes emotions are part of it, but at the end of the day, when you come to make the decision, it's got to make sense. It's got to be rational. And so whatever, balancing intellect with emotions, basically, you have to at least strike a balance. And then if this is not, if the king is not somebody that you need to go talk to about this, to get some advice, then you have to make the decision in a way that you're not deluding yourself. And generally speaking, when that comes in, the desire takes over the intellect. Again, the desire would be emotions. And you want a particular outcome and you're not seeing things realistically. And so I think I think the 2 is such a powerful card here. This might be new for you with the maiden moon in the picture. This might be a new experience for you, but you have to let go of whatever's holding you back from asserting yourself and making the kind of decision that's best for you, and doing it in a logical and rational way, instead of one that is, more histrionic and based on fear. Try to let things settle before making the decision. Let those emotions settle so that they're not influencing the final decision, where you're giving into that and you're not making the best decision for yourself. And then when you do, then it puts to end that, nine is about, it's not just about spirituality, it's also about endings and completion. There's a sense of completion after the decision, and making it in a logical and reasonable way, objective way. It is another way of looking at it. Once you get rid of that, the emotions settle out, and you have you have a decision that you can live with. Then maybe you gain some peace, the peace of mind, which is, worth a lot, frankly, especially if you've been struggling. You need that peace of mind, and you can think of that in terms of emotional security, if not material security. If this has to do with, again, some kind of a legal type of a thing or a job type of a thing, it could result in some increased material security if that decision has to do with that. But you have to take a logical and reasoned approach to it and put the emotions on the back burner, let them settle. The emotions are what are the thing that are going to make you react passively to something. You look at people that are passive aggressive. They're people that can't do things in the normal way. They can't have the kind of discussion they need to. In other words, if you're more on the passive side of things, you'll manipulate things in a way to get what you want instead of just stating it. This is what I want. This is what I need. Instead, they find ways to manipulate to get it. Sometimes by being very passive and not reacting at all. And then everybody's running around trying to figure out, what does this person need? Oh my goodness, she's upset, he's upset, whatever, and it's a very powerful place for someone to be. Sometimes I think on the passive side of passive aggression, that's the most powerful side. It's not the aggressive side. I mean, that's out there in the open for everybody to see. You're being aggressive. You're asserting yourself in a way that's aggressive, and you're trying to control everything. Everybody knows that. But the other stuff, but the passive side is so hidden. And unless you understand the dynamic of what's going on in that person, you may not pick up on it. And that's a really powerful place for them to be. They get all kinds of things that they want. And all of us, and you end up feeling weird about it maybe, and maybe eventually you see what's going on or somebody says something about it. But what's happened is you've been manipulated into doing it by that person. And you don't feel right about it, but maybe you can't figure out why you don't feel right about it yet. But that's how passive aggressive people are. Some hang out at one end or the other. They can do both, but they tend to stay in one side or the other about things, and they try to control the situation when all they really need to do is assert themselves and say, here, this is what I want, this is how I see things, this is what I need, but they don't do it that way. They either do it by controlling aggressively or controlling passively, but it's a measure of control either way. Right? Well, you have to let go of all of that kind of stuff if that's what's going on for you here, because when you do, you create a level of security for yourself and comfort and peace, and a feeling of abundance maybe even comes into play, because now you can have a more realistic relationship, a more realistic interaction with people where, they're saying what they want, you're saying what you want, this is my perspective, they're saying this is my perspective, maybe they're the same, maybe they're not, doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, everyone is heard, and everyone gets to assert their own beliefs and their own needs and their own desires. And if you have to turn, but the only way you do that, I think, is to get the emotions under control. So I think that whatever this applies to in your life, again, whether it's a job or a relationship you have with somebody, or what have you, something needs to change, I think, with Hagalaz and Populace, where there's something inside you that needs to resolve itself, basically, so that you can then move forward in a way that is not passive, that is not following along with the crowd, but that in a way that you can actually, given that we have two cards from the suit of swords, you assert yourself in a way that's balanced and respectful and honest, and reasonable and logical and all of that, objectively present things in a way that don't undermine other people's beliefs or needs. That just, this is how I feel about something, this is how I see it, this is what I need, and with no expectation about what someone else needs, right? Because it could be something entirely different. But making that kind of decision, I think then, especially if it's done in an honest and with no self-deception at all, then I think that you can come out of it in a very peaceful and possibly abundant way. And let's face it, if it's a situation where your will, or rather your intellect, is never balanced with your emotional side, that's not a peaceful way to live. And so when you get that balanced out, when you achieve that balance, then that more balanced perspective on things, then you can have a more peaceful sense of self, maybe. I know when my intellect is not, I'm not being very reasonable, I'm reacting emotionally. I mean, it happens, we all do it, and it's fine. But when it's a pattern, then you have to, it may interfere with successfully navigating your life and your experiences. So again, it could be about a specific situation, that if you make a decision that's dispassionate, that if you're honest with yourself, if you look at things objectively, it can lead you to some material security and abundance. Or if it's simply about how you interact with people, you have to let go of the fear that causes the passivity, and allow Hagalaz to transform your lower egoic awareness into higher awareness, so that you can understand the bigger picture, so you can understand the rationale for why that transition needs to happen, so that you can make decisions in a more balanced way, so you can be honest with yourself and others. And then in the end, you have some more peace from it all, where you feel more secure in your own self, even. Whether you end up getting what you want or not, it doesn't matter as much as, you know what, I spoke up. This is what I need. I'm going to figure out a way to get what I need. Maybe not in this situation, but maybe in another one, I'm going to be motivated to do that now. Because what I need matters. Having some peace of mind matters. Striking that balance within matters. Once you experience it, you understand that. But if you've never experienced it before, then you're always on that passive side of giving it over to other people, giving yourself away to other people and what they want. It's like if you have a partner that's very assertive and tries to control everything that's going on in your relationship because you don't speak up. It's just easier to let that person make all the decisions, and that way you don't have to make any. Well, make a decision. It's fun, You feel empowered. Why wouldn't you want to do that? But some of us don't. It's hard. Maybe childhood was such where you weren't allowed to speak up. And if that's the case, then you're in this structure that really is of somebody else's making. Had you had different parents, maybe, maybe you would have turned out differently. But maybe your parents didn't allow you to speak up. And so you learn to stay silent. But you have needs too. You have ideas too. You can speak up about anything. It's just, for some of us, it's hard to do that. And you're afraid of what's going to happen. You're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of all these things. And so I think that I want to keep this as general as possible, but this can apply to all kinds of situations, where you need to cut through you need to come to the truth of the matter, basically. And that needs to come out, even if you're the one that has to say it, and from there, maybe you can have some peace of mind. So anyhow. Well, it's what happens when I draw Hagalas. It gets witchy. So anyway, thanks for watching. And have a good weekend. If you're off on Monday, that's wonderful. We used to begin planting our garden on Memorial Day weekend, on actual Memorial Day, and usually around here we have lightning and thunder. But of late, that doesn't seem to be happening. I don't think it's happening this weekend either. But usually it's pretty stormy. But we used to start planting then. Only we learned we could put more things in ahead of time. And lately the weather's been great. So, and it's looking good for a couple of weeks, like 10 days ahead. It's looking really good. So I think things can go in that I might have been hesitant to do. Um, so, but I still won't plant my beans until a week from Sunday. So I don't know. Maybe I'll get brave and I'll do it before. But I don't know why I fixate on my green bean crop, but they could just get taken out just like that by frost. And we're at 3,000 feet above sea level, so you never know. You have to watch, and you have to cover things during the garden season so that they don't get lost on you. All that work for nothing. Because we have a short growing season here. If it doesn't get in, if it doesn't grow, it doesn't happen. So nothing will fruit out, basically. So anyway, thanks for watching. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, I'd love you to do that and come back again Monday or Tuesday or whenever you want to watch this. But I do this on Mondays and Thursdays. But come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.